Welcome to the Xavier Factor, where I share my world with you through extraordinary eyes. I'm the host that puts the Xavier in the Xavier Factor. My name is Xavier. How's it going, everyone? We are back after a couple of weeks hiatus. Yes, I had to take a couple of weeks off due to a number of different issues, just trying to find time to be able to record. But I did want to follow up because these last 2 weeks have been a doozy. A lot of stuff to cover, a lot of stuff going on in a couple of different places. So I think I'll just jump right into it. It's going to be more of a sort of recap of news and give my thoughts on the state of different things. So I'll start with where we kind of left off last week or last time I recorded. The last thing I talked about was the Cocaine Bear review, and then just prior to that was the Jets. So as I talked about last time, I am a huge Jets fan, and there's been a lot of news, a lot of noise around the Jets, probably the most noise in the NFL right now, revolving around a certain quarterback that I talked about on that episode. So we had some developments since then. So since that recording, it has come out that Aaron Rodgers has decided that he will play another season and that he intends to play for the New York Jets. And this is pretty big news. There's a couple of things about this interview. He went on the Pat McAfee show, decided to talk about what his intentions were and what was going on in the whole situation. Sounded like he wanted to clear the air of a few things. So we all know that he went into this sort of darkness retreat thing where he decided that he was going to spend 4 days in darkness to sort of clear his head and ponder his future. And when he came out, he had made a decision. Or did he? And I'm going to talk about why I asked that question. So starting with in the interview, Aaron Rodgers sort of talked about his thoughts, his feelings about, life in football. He also discussed where, what his plans were prior to going into the darkness retreat. And so his thought was that, he was 90% retired, going into, or 90% leading towards retirement when he was going into the darkness retreat. And that when he came out, he had changed his mind because the Packers sort of moved on from him. So, Aaron Rodgers has a lot of issues, and obviously, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, or had been one of the best quarterbacks over the last almost 20 years. I think this would be his 18th season coming up, and what was strange to me was his wording choice. He said he was about 90% retired, but when he got out, the Packers were basically ready to move on from him, and that motivated him to play again or play another season, and obviously play another season with another team. My thought process is here, and this is just, I don't understand Rodgers sometimes, and this is the stuff that frustrates you about a quarterback like that. So the first thing I would say is that, one, it was strange that if you're planning on retiring, he said he was about 90% retired, and you decide, I might come back for another season. Why does it bother you that the team is ready to move on? You were ready to move on, so why is it that bothering you that the team that you played for, that you were contemplating retirement about or for, is ready to move on? You took your time making the decision. They made the decision. It just feels really awkward to me. Like, I think he probably fluffed that a little bit. I don't think he was ready to retire at all. And just the excuse of, I would have returned to the Packers if, they had opened me with welcome arms. I just don't see that. Like, did you come out of the darkness retreat and decide that you don't want to retire and wanted to play again, and that's when you decided to play for the Jets? Or is it that you were 90% retired and found out that they don't want to, they were ready to move on from you? If that's the case, then why are you so upset? I just don't understand it. But the decision was made that he would play for the Jets. And one of the discourses that's been going back and forth over Twitter and even within the media is about who has the leverage now. And this because one of the holdups, the reason why this hasn't happened yet is because the Jets and Packers haven't agreed to. They can't come to an agreement on a trade package for Aaron Rodgers. And so, in my thoughts, I think there's no way the Jets should give up. I talked about it last week. I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, but I really do think that the Jets should not be giving up a lot. They should not necessarily. They should not be giving up a first round pick for Aaron Rodgers. I know people are thinking, hey, so and so got a first round pick for this team or for this person or this player. For example, I think there was 2 first round picks for Matt Stafford. Well, here's the thing with Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford is younger than Rodgers. Not a whole lot younger, but a little bit younger. He has more years left on the tank than Rodgers does, and Matt Stafford wasn't thinking about or contemplating retirement, and was not 90% retired prior to that trade to the Rams. It also makes sense because that's the Rams' MO. Like they haven't had a first round pick in about 5-6 years now. It feels like they've been throwing away their first round picks chasing that title. Which when you get a title, it ends up being worth it. But for the Jets, Aaron Rodgers is not again. He's not going to be the best quarterback. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers from even 2 years ago when he won MVP. He had a down year last year. The idea is that he's only going to regress further. He's 40-year-old man, trying to play a quarterback at a high level. And so, sure, you get Aaron Rodgers, you do have a shot at the Super Bowl. But with Aaron Rodgers, you're only getting one shot. So in order for you to be able to do that, you have to be able to take advantage of that one shot and be able to have a team that's fully ready to go in order to take that one shot. And if you miss out on it, for you to give up a first-round pick or multiple first-round picks, it just does not make sense. I don't think if it was up to me, you take someone who's going to give you a little bit more chances. I think if you're telling me I have to hit a target on the first shot, it's and I have to pay you for that target like a credible amount to possibly win, more money. I just think that I'd rather give me a little bit less money with more chances, because you have to pay $200 to win you have to pay $200 to win $2,000. But if you get me to pay $200 to win $1,000, but I get 10 more tries at it, I'm going to take that one all day. And that's just what I think you have here. Maybe the target's a little bit bigger on the other one, but for me, I just think you shouldn't overpay. So I don't think the Packers have all that much leverage, but I don't think the Jets have all that much leverage. And I'm tired of people going back and forth talking about it. I think the person that really has the leverage is Aaron Rodgers, because it seems like either way somebody's going to pay him. Either it's Green Bay or it's the Jets. And that's who really has the leverage. So either Aaron Rodgers gets what he wants and goes to a team that he wants to go to, or he gets to be retired basically and collect money. So who knows? So it looks like, for the foreseeable future that the Jets will get Aaron Rodgers, and Aaron Rodgers will play at least one of his final seasons with the New York Jets. And this situation is eerily familiar to the Brett Favre situation almost 15 years ago. August will make 15 years that trade actually happened. And some of the thinking is that this could drag out into August because the Packers don't have any rush to sort of get this deal done, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think if you're truly committed to Jordan Love, you get this done ASAP. You don't have this hanging over him, over your team. It's just best to go ahead and just move on, especially if you want to try to get picks in this year's draft. So, yeah, I think it just it doesn't make sense. And with that being said, there is now with that being said, there's now a gap that needs to be filled for a couple of different teams. For the Jets, it's okay. How do you get the most value from Aaron Rodgers? And that's going out and signing a bunch of players. And for the Packers, it's how do you get the value for Aaron Rodgers trading him? And again, I think it's back to that Brett Favre situation. Yeah, it ended badly for the Jets, but started out pretty good, going 8-3 with Favre, and then him deciding to go to another team the next year, going to Minnesota. The Jets sort of just let him go ahead and go after that 1 year. And it's, again, Brett Favre was 39 years old at that point. Aaron Rodgers, 39 years old. It's obviously the same two teams. Green Bay has a quarterback that's been sitting for a while. Back then it was Aaron Rodgers. Now it's Jordan Love that they're ready to sort of give and hand over the reins to. And I think at this point, the trade has to get done. And we'll see who ends up getting the better part of this trade. The answer will be known not necessarily in September or whenever this trade happens, but in February. We'll know if the Jets ended up getting good value for this trade at all. That being said, moving on to more Jets news, and this is more recently. We'll talk about sort of weapons. So Aaron Rodgers' Aaron Rodgers been in the league for 18 years now, and his he's won one Super Bowl, and he's missed out on a bunch of others. Like, he's made it to a few championship games, but he's fallen short. So what makes the Jets team a different team? There was rumors about Aaron Rodgers having sort of a wish list that he talked about in that interview as well, and said that wasn't necessarily the case. It wasn't, he never gave anyone a wish list. I not disagree, but I feel like that's a fluff or semantics somewhere. I think he probably said, hey, I would like to play with this guy, that guy. It'd be great if you could get them in here. Which to me kind of sucks, because I think the Jets were definitely trying hard to be able to do that. But again, you gotta realize some of these guys are fighting for their jobs, the GM and coach, I think. And then you have Woody Johnson, who just would love to have Aaron Rodgers there. My thing would have been, okay, let's go ahead and throw 2 first-round picks to Baltimore and sign Lamar Jackson to his. It doesn't even have to be. I know he wants a fully guaranteed contract, but let's say, who is he going to turn down? $150 million guaranteed. If sign him for $200 million, you give him $150 million guaranteed. I don't think he'll turn that down. So I think that's something that he'd have to listen to. But the Jets are intent on trying to bring in, build a team that's ready for winning. So in doing that, they did sign one of Rodgers' former teammates in Alan Lazard. I think it's a good signing. It's a bigger wide receiver. He has had some production in the past with Green Bay, and he has a rapport with Aaron Rodgers. One of the sort of breaking news things that happened recently is the Elijah Moore trade. I think Elijah Moore was a great talent, that the Jets are losing. They traded him to the Browns for basically gaining a second round pick, but swapping out a sixth round pick, I believe. So it's basically you move up from sixth round pick to a second round pick for Elijah Moore. I think really, if you're going to trade Elijah Moore, just take the second round pick. I don't think you should have had to trade another sixth round pick for him. People may disagree with me, but that's just my thoughts there. I think that Elijah Moore is better than the talent they brought in. I think he's a better talent than Alan Lazard. I think he's a better talent than who they just signed, Nicole Hardman. I don't think that they're equivalent. I think Elijah Moore is a younger, more versatile Hardman. And Hardman's pretty versatile, but I just think Elijah Moore is a better talent. And for you to give up on him and bring in Hardman, I think it's. I know some people feel like, oh, you had to do this because of what happened last year, but I think a lot of what happened last year was due to the coordinator, Mike LaFleur. I think that you getting rid of Mike LaFleur, it solves that problem with Elijah Moore. And for you to now trade one of your best young players, this is the talent that you had that was performing with, poor quarterback play. And for you to trade him away when you're bringing in sort of a better quarterback, supposedly, I just think that I think they're playing too much into this let's get Aaron Rodgers thing, and this is I think they're going to rely too much on Aaron Rodgers, and this is not going to turn out well. This is just my opinion. I think you've got to be better. I think you've got to keep your young core intact, because in part that's one of the reasons why you were so successful, is because you have a young core. I think he's someone that you don't get rid of young versatile players. I just don't think you do that. You want to build for a future, have multiple chances again. Sure, you get Alan Lazard, but he's a different type of player. And I know the McCole Hardman pickup was more closer to replacing the production you'll get from Elijah Moore, but I just don't think you'll get the same. I think he's going to be tremendous in Cleveland, but we'll see. The tape will show the tale. So moving on, that's just my 2 cents on the Jets. We'll have to wait and see what the results of these trades and this impact is, and we'll see if it works out for the Jets. And I don't know what you call a success. You just call a success making the playoffs, because to me, I think 31 teams fail to reach their goal every year. I think the goal should and always is win a Super Bowl. I don't think the goal is get to the playoffs. I don't think the goal is to, make it to the championship game. I think it's a failure if you don't win the Super Bowl. That's just my opinion. Everything you do is to win a Super Bowl. Maybe not individually as a player. Maybe your goal is to, make the most money or get to the Hall of Fame or things like that. But as a team, your goal is always to win a Super Bowl, and that's what fans want. And then the only time fans kind of settle in for all those other things, like the playoffs, is when they don't win Super Bowls. It's because they can't win Super Bowl. So yeah, it's like, okay, yes, our team made this championship game, or our team has this many Hall of Famers and this, that, and other, this many Pro Bowlers. But again, that's not enjoyable. I want to see my team win a Super Bowl. And you think that's what the coaches and everyone has in mind, and then you can second guess them if you want. I'll just say, I don't know. I've not been wrong about a quarterback for the Jets. I think the last one I was wrong about was about Chad Pennington staying healthy and staying with the team. So we'll see. Or maybe I guess I was a little bit wrong about Brett Favre. Almost to a point, he got hurt later on in the year, so he was actually doing pretty well for the team until he ended up getting hurt. So, because I thought they would, do really well with Brett Favre. I remember when the trade happened, I said Super Bowl or bust, and I still think the same thing now today. If we get Aaron Rodgers, it's Super Bowl or bust. And then we get who would have thought that we got further with Mark Sanchez than we did with Brett Favre, winning 9 games and 11 games in back-to-back seasons and championship, making the conference championship in each game. All right, so that's my thoughts on the Jets. I'm gonna switch over to talking about some of the geek stuff. DC. There's a lot of drama surrounding DC right now. A lot of stuff. I remember the last time we talked, I spoke about like how there was a number of movies coming out in March. One of those movies was Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which I did happen to see. I still missed out on a couple of other movies such as Creed and Scream, but I intend to watch those movies before this month is out. So we'll see how well I do there. But there's a lot of drama surrounding Shazam. I'll go ahead and give like a quick review of the movie, of my thoughts on the movie. First, I actually liked the movie. I actually thought it was a pretty decent movie. I don't think it was like the best comic book movie ever, or nowhere near the worst comic book movie ever. I think it was a solid middle of the pack movie. Enjoyed it about as much as like I enjoyed the first Thor, or any of those Phase 1 movies outside of like the first Iron Man and the first Avengers. But like I'll definitely watch Shazam: Fury of the Gods again over Captain America: First Avenger. Just my opinion. I don't necessarily think it's a better movie. I just think it's a more entertaining movie. It has more for it in me. I think it has a lot of problems with both movies, actually. The Shazam movie, I think there was... well, let me go into the review. So I think the movie was a solid... Like, if I wanted to rate it, I'd give it maybe 6.5, 7 out of 10 rating, or 3 out of 5. I don't think it was... I don't think it obviously wasn't perfect movie. I think Zachary Levi was sort of a sore point for me in the movie. I think there was maybe too much Shazam Zachary Levi. I don't know what it was, but something about him kind of I think it was that his character and Billy Batson, Asher Angel, they just didn't feel as cohesive. And that probably is due to the fact that we did not get much Billy Batson in this movie. I think we got very little view of Billy Batson, very little acting from Asher Angel, and we got way too much Shazam. And I just felt like instead of it making him be like a kid in a grown man's body, it more so made him feel... I think that it was played out as like a sort of a dunce, less so a kid in a man's body, or a teenager in a man's body. Because I mean, even at this point, they're saying in the movies, Billy and Freddie are 17, 18 years old, and there's a certain level of maturity that's there, but then there's like that lack of maturity does not equal dunce. And I think they kind of played him up for a fool a little bit. Like even there's a whole scene where they're dictating a letter, and to be able to not sort of catch that, it just felt like I could understand if it was a younger kid, maybe in a little bit in like the preteen age vein. And I think that and Zachary Levi would have played the character really right, but it just felt like there wasn't the cohesion between the Billy Batson character. Because I think even when we saw Asher Angel as a person, or as him, playing Billy, he didn't act as much of a dunce as Zachary Levi had. So I think that was one problem that I had with it. But overall, I think the movie had heart. It was fun. It's a family movie. It's like uh, criticizing a high school musical movie. I think it does what it was meant to do, and I just think that it wasn't meant for everyone, which led to its sort of poor performance at the box office. It not being able to pull in the money. And then Shazam is sort of a niche character. It's not like a Superman. It's not like a um, Captain America or Iron Man, or even I think the thing that the Marvel Cinematic Universe had going for it to be able to introduce these characters was that there was a big build up into before they got to characters like the Guardians of the Galaxy, like Ant-Man, like some of the lesser known characters, is that you've had already a sort of moving, cohesive story that people wanted to keep up with and keep in contact with. So, yeah, no one knew who Ant Man was or knew who Star Lord was, but it was the fact of, okay, we saw this, it was a good movie, and this is the next continuation of that story. Let's go ahead and see this movie too. And I think what happened, and I'll get to this more in a minute, is the lack of cohesion between the DC cinematic universe, especially with people knowing that, okay, this is going to be sort of rebooted, and this story might ultimately not matter in the large scheme of things. And so when you have that issue, it's going to stomp on your box office. I think the other thing is there's a lot of Rotten Tomatoes reviews. I'm starting to think that maybe the reviews should not come out before a movie, because I just think that you should give people, an audience, time to go and see the movie first. I think the only purpose of reviews is to encourage or discourage people from going to see the movie. So if you're trying to encourage people to go see the movie, then why not just put it out there after the movie is released and after people have seen it already? Why put out a review beforehand unless you're trying to tell people, hey, don't waste your time seeing this movie? So all reviews do is discourage it. And if I was a movie studio, I'd put an embargo out, and I don't know if they can do this, but I would put embargoes out until after the first weekend of the movie. Let people go and decide for themselves, because I think too many times the negative reviews, like just because this critic doesn't like it, or the aggregation of Rotten Tomatoes, because this number of critics don't like it, it's not a good movie. And I just don't necessarily find that to be the case, or necessarily find it to be the case. Like, it may not be the greatest movie, but it's still entertaining and still enjoyable. I've always said, even the bad movies that I've seen they provide something. There's only ever been one movie that I've ever regretted watching, and it's like, and I mean, I've seen some really bad movies that I just did not enjoy, but there's only one movie that I ever regretted not watching, or regretted watching, and that was called Vivarium. It was not a movie for me. It was, in fact, a movie that was completely against me, in my opinion. But overall, I think, again, Shazam is just a really fun movie. It's a good family movie, one to see with your kids. I think there's maybe a couple of jokes that went a little too hard, something a little bit too adult. But I think at the end of the day, it's an enjoyable movie. And after watching the movie, it made me want to see more of Shazam. It wanted me to say, hey, I wish these characters would stay in James Gunn's new DC universe. I don't want this to be the end of this story. And I just remember saying that after the movie was over, and found myself saying that. Now, getting to more into the drama of the movie. So one of the things that's been going back and forth, and this has been drama for a few months now, ever since Black Adam came out back in October, was the lack of connectivity between Black Adam and Shazam. So it was strange, always strange, that Black Adam, that The Rock was attached to Black Adam. They wanted to do a Black Adam movie separate from Shazam, and it just did not feel right or cohesive. And so it's similar to how people felt about the Venom movies. In fact, it's very similar premises. You have a character that was born from another character, a hero character, that doesn't interact with that hero character, which, it's super. For Shazam, it's a little bit easier to understand than even Spider-Man, though. But the whole Venom thing was, born from Spider-Man. Like, you have this symbiote who came, attached himself to Spider-Man, and then in breaking free of it, attached itself to Eddie Brock, who already had a rivalry with Spider-Man. So Spider-Man was very key to Venom's character in history, and so was Black Adam to Shazam. They're both granted powers by the Wizard, and even in the first movie, there's this sort of history lesson that the Wizard gives that tells about a hero or champion chosen beforehand that it feels like the Black Adam movie just completely ignored. And I'm gonna say I enjoyed the Black Adam movie as well. I didn't think it was a great movie. I just thought it was enjoyable. It was something that it's a movie I was happy to have seen. I know a lot of people had problems with the kid. This is, oddly enough, the one time a kid did not annoy me, and I see everyone else complaining about how the kid in Black Adam annoyed them. Usually kids annoy the mess out of me when I'm watching a movie, in movies and things like that, but for this movie, for Black Adam, it did not. And going back to just a review, I did enjoy the family aspects of Shazam Fury of the Gods. One thing I will say is the story just was a little weak. I think the villains were a little weak. I think not necessarily in acting or performance, but just like in motivations or whatnot. I think maybe Lucy Liu didn't give a great performance. I thought Helen Mirren's performance was pretty good. But I just think that the Lucy Liu character, I just don't feel like they were fleshed out enough to be able to. I don't think we got enough to understand why this Lucy Liu character, I can't remember her name, was more sort of vicious and vengeful than her sisters, and why. And when she turned on her sisters in the movie, spoiler. I don't think it was that big of a shock, or I don't think it had the emotional impact that it was meant to have, or could have had, or should have had if we had just learned a little bit more about these characters and spent some time with these sisters. And the movie starts off with them just being there, and you don't really get at least in the first movie with Savannah, you start the movie off with the his background and his interaction with the Wizard and sort of his motivations, and that's what was missing from the second Shazam movie. So getting back to the drama, so Black Adam, born from Shazam. This is a Shazam character, or Captain Marvel character, should say, and what came out this week was that The Rock refused, and I think it's sort of old news, because I think this was covered before, where it was rumored that The Rock just refused to have any interaction with Shazam, even though he is a Shazam villain, and was solely, wanting to interact with Superman and have this big showdown between Black Adam and Superman. And anyway, it was leading to that was sort of like the failure of the two franchises. And I do think there's some truth to that. I don't think it's completely on that, but I do think that if these two franchises would, or technically it should be one franchise, if these two movies had, or three movies had interacted more closely together, or integrated more closely together, that each of these movies would have been more successful than they were. And it's true, because part of it, one of the reasons why I think it's true is that when I was watching the Shazam movie, after the movie was over, even after the two post-credit scenes, which we'll cover in just a minute, one of the things I heard someone say in the theater was, man, they didn't even show one thing about, they didn't have one mention of Black Adam, which also didn't make sense throughout the movie because you're talking about like these characters wanting the powers of the wizard and, trying to, these characters are unworthy and they go after the Shazamly, but there was no, interaction with Black Adam, who has the same powers, who is basically the same character. Like you would not know these two characters had on similar suits or whatnot, and call out the same name for the power, had the same power sets, but they were like two movies that were just totally separate, and I think that was to the detriment. And it was basically because of The Rock and The Rock wanting to sort of take his chance at being able to take over the DC universe and DC movie making with his production company. He even admitted to much. We took a swing and missed or something like that. He was throwing out sports analogies which weren't exactly correct. He said something about like we took a swing and missed. You have it's like when you have new owners that come in to a football team and you have a quarterback that wins championships and wide receiver that wins championships, and you decide that even though they won championships, you're going to go ahead and bring in your own guys to go ahead and do, which I don't think the analogy fits because one, no owner is throwing away, well, I say this after just talking about Aaron Rodgers being traded to the Jets, but I say that in an aspect of if you have a current someone who's still in their prime, able to sort of win you championships, no owner is tossing out. And I mean, maybe you could say a coach maybe wants to bring in their own guy or whatnot, but at the end of the day, if you're a championship guy who's still being able to put together championships, then nobody's replacing that guy. And that's just my thoughts on it. But I do think, The Rock took his chance, which can't really blame him for. He tried to build something on his own in his own mold. I just think it just did not connect with people the way he wanted. And because of that, and him owning and having such a huge, owning the production of Black Adam, which includes characters that were not created for the movie, but the, what's the word I'm looking for? Characterizations of characters such as the JSA, Dr. Fate, Hawkman, being connected to his production company, production. I guess maybe he had licenses to be like they had to agree to use them, or had to agree for other movies to use them, which is weird because they're part of this sort of larger window, and this probably goes back to a failure of the previous DC regime. But the rumor is basically that The Rock denied them access to be able to use those characters to be able to meet in the Shazam post-credit scene to sort of recruit Shazam into the JSA, which when I remember growing up that he was a part of at the time. But all of that to say, that led to them sort of redoing the scene, but instead of using Hawkman or Dr. Fate or whoever was going to recruit Shazam, they used Harcourt, Jennifer Holland's character of Harcourt, and Johnny Economos from the Suicide Squad, and basically Black Adam. They were in, she was in Black Adam as well. So that was another big topic that led to fans getting upset again, throwing flames at James Gunn, basically saying that like he's sort of taking over this universe and just keeping his characters and getting rid of characters that people love, and casting his wife in all the movies and making her like the sort of Nick Fury of the new DCU, or I guess she'd be more like the Agent Coulson versus Nick Fury of the DCU. But James Gunn responded to that on Twitter saying he's only ever casted his wife for the Suicide Squad movie, which technically is, well, he did say only one movie, which was the Suicide Squad. But I was gonna say he also did make sure that she was in the Peacemaker series. That being said, this rumor being what it was, it sounds like it was more so not James Gunn that made the choice to have Harcourt in the Shazam movie, but more so previous leadership, direction, maybe the director himself, David Sandberg, to be able to say like, no, this is this is his choice because he couldn't use the characters that he really wanted to use. And I think people are unfairly. I think some people are just so ready to hate Gunn, based on his just based on his history being Marvel, and just there's a very large Snyder contingent out there, Snyder fan contingent that are super toxic. Not all of them, not all of the Snyder fans, but I'm just saying that there's a subsect of the Snyder fandom that is very toxic, and they're just do and say stupid stuff on Twitter and annoy the mess out of people. All of that to say that, look, there's also there's these people that don't want James Gunn to be successful, which makes absolutely no sense at all. Because I think they think that if James Gunn is successful, they're gonna be like, see, nobody can be successful but Zack, and that the Zack will be back to do the rest of his DC movies, which at this point there's not really it doesn't make sense to try to do it. Ben Affleck is not playing Batman again, which we'll cover Ben Affleck and his news this week a little bit later. But I just don't think. I think the ship has probably sailed for that, and it sucks because there was a story that was uncompleted, and we would really love to get the finish to that story. But it's part of me wishes, yes, I would love to get this, but part of me is like, no, stuff it to all those people on Twitter that are constantly annoying people, like that Mercury guy, there's a couple of others that stay popping up on my timeline that I don't follow, but that stupid For You page on Twitter kind of puts them into my view. Anyway, so keeping with the James Gunn news, the news that came out in the last couple of weeks was that James Gunn finally did answer all of the offer all of the information, or James Gunn probably offered the information that fans have been looking for, and it's if he was, and suspecting, I'd say fairly suspecting that he was going to be the director for Superman Legacy. And it was expected. There's no way he could not have directed this movie. I guess there's some small chance on some island that he maybe wasn't going to direct this movie. But at the heart of it, it makes the most sense for him to direct this movie. One, because, it's starting his new universe. He's writing the script. It has to be successful. And why would you trust someone else to be able to do that? If you're going to swing for it, if you're going to take a shot, it might as well be you holding the gun. No pun intended. You want to be the one that's going to direct this and give it the vision. It's your vision for this whole universe. You want to start it off, and it has to be a success. Otherwise, if your flagship sort of movie fails, you're off to a bad start, and it's very hard to recover from that. So I don't think that it was, surprising report that he was going to direct, but it was news, and it, again, with there being a bunch of James Gunn haters, pissed people off. I think people are upset. They think James Gunn is going to do another sort of Love and Thunder type treatment to, or maybe I guess Guardians treatment, because people like Guardians are nowhere near as bad as Love and Thunder for me, or even the Suicide Squad. Even though I enjoyed the Suicide Squad, there were a number of it was overly jokey. There were too many jokes that were just too raunchy, unfitting, and I should say unfitting, but they were very much that sort of toilet humor, I guess you could call it. Which, not to say like I'm over, not to be an elitism or anything like that. Like, I can enjoy that movie not movie, but I can enjoy that humor where it fits, like when it fits with the characters. And I think it does fit with the characters of the Suicide Squad. I think it does fit with characters of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Where I think it doesn't fit is things like Thor: Love and Thunder. Like, I don't think of Thor, like, I've read comic books for Thor growing up. You never saw Thor was always this serious, regal type character. And I think that Taika Waititi and Chris Hemsworth decided to sort of make him a joke. And even I think it may have even started with, I guess it still started with Taika Waititi, but it does feel like it amplified with the Russos in Endgame. And so, I've talked about this before, probably my first or second episode, how I felt about the Avengers Endgame and how I felt about Fat Thor. And how Thor: Love and Thunder just took that to the extreme next level. And I think everyone fears that James Gunn directing Superman Legacy will make it like that. But I just believe in my heart that James Gunn understands who Superman is as a character, and that doesn't really fit within the Superman movie. And so people are saying like, oh, James Gunn's a liar because he said he didn't want to direct a Superman movie. Which, at the time he probably didn't, especially the way you guys are acting right now. Like, I wouldn't want to do a Superman movie either, the way, that the discourse is out there. But I think now is the right time. He even mentioned that. He said that he didn't before. He does now because he figured out a way to do Superman and do a great Superman story. And, I tend to believe him that, like, okay, like, yeah, he sat down, took some time, thought about it, and that he does have a story that he feels like it's worth telling. And maybe it's different. Maybe it's something that's really good. Maybe it's shit. But we'll see. Anyway. So that was the news. James Gunn directing Superman Legacy. Next bit of news, keeping with sort of the James Gunn theme almost, but DC news. Ben Affleck. So I mentioned before there was some news about Ben Affleck and what news he made. There was a recent article, as his movie Air is coming out, about the story behind the Michael Jordan, the birth of Air Jordan. And the interviewer had asked him something about directing for a DC movie. Now, for background and context, there was I think this was right around the time the decision was made to move on from Henry Cavill, or that Superman Legacy was going to star a younger Superman and not Henry Cavill. I think a fan had asked about, Ben Affleck and, what the story is with him. Or maybe this is when they made the announcement of the slate, some of the slate. And I just remember a fan asking, what are the plans for Ben? And I think James Gunn said something like, Ben wants to direct. We want him to direct, but we have to find the right project for him. And so when Ben Affleck came out this week and said that when asked if, he would direct a DCU movie, he said, no, absolutely not. Something of that nature. He would not want to direct, a movie in that universe, not the way they're doing it. Something along those lines, basically. And my thought process on that is that, one, it does hurt because, we all would have loved to see a James Gunn directed movie. I think everybody was looking for the Batman movie. The Brave and the Bold, looking for Ben Affleck because, that's another sort of story piece that we never got to see. Something that never came to fruition was the Batman movie that Ben Affleck was supposed to be writing and directing. And so people took this to mean called James Gunn a liar. Like, oh, you lied about this. I think people are so obsessed with the James Gunn being a liar that they're just reaching at everything. More on that later, because there's a sort of a bigger name that's sort of reaching at James Gunn being a liar. And that the news came out this week as well. It's a lot of news that's come up. But at the end of the day, I don't think James Gunn necessarily lied. I mean, basically what he said was that Ben Affleck wants to direct, and we talked, and, we had to find the right project for him. And it looks like they didn't find the right project for him. It looks like Ben Affleck decided, okay, I don't know what he meant by, I wouldn't want to direct it that way. And I think it's more so like he wants to be able to have complete autonomy with whatever movie he does. And James Gunn is like, okay, I'm going to focus. So even though we have these Elseworld stories, I don't want to create something new in Elseworlds just to be able to get Ben Affleck to direct another DCU movie. And if Ben Affleck wants to direct a movie, let's try to get him to direct a movie that's within our DC universe. And follows sort of our pattern and our story that we're shooting for. And I think Ben Affleck was just like, nah, I don't think I'd want to do that, especially after being involved in the, the what happened with the Snyder Justice League movie and moving on to Whedon and sort of butchering that movie. I think Ben is just, like, I'd rather keep my health. He even mentioned that, like, it was a very unhealthy time for him during those reshoots and whatnot. And he'd just rather be able to have, and again, this is all my speculation that's what he meant by, I wouldn't want to do it in the way that they're doing that. So I think it's big news because it's basically saying that, okay, we're not going to get Ben Affleck to direct a movie in this DC universe, but who knows? People can change their mind. Ben Affleck may, get some feedback from other directors that end up directing DCU movies and saying like how much of a wonderful experience it is and how maybe he'd want to do it. Although he did say absolutely not. So who knows? I think a lot of people took this to say like, James Gunn is a liar and that Ben Affleck was trying to call James Gunn a liar or trying to, say like, oh, James Gunn is phony or fishy or something like that. But I don't think that's the case at all. I think he just was responding to it and was just saying like, no, I don't want to be, I'm going to stop this now. Like, I'm going to put the end to this now. And we're not going to keep getting asked this question, especially after he's on press release. It's got to be hard. Like you're doing press for this movie and trying to move on from something and people want to talk about something that's either speculative or something that reminds you of a horrible time from your past. That because one of the other things Ben did mention was how bad it was working on those reshoots, but also mentioned how like Zack Snyder's Justice League, the true version of what should have been released in 2017, was was his highest rated movie on IMDb. Not that means much, I don't think. Well, it obviously means something to Ben. So, in keeping with that. Moving on to some other news, but keeping in sort of the same wheelhouse, let's talk Ray Fisher. Ray Fisher has been really annoying as of, I say late, but over the last year or so. I think he, first, I don't want to diminish what Ray experienced during the whole Whedon reshoots on Justice League. And the issues that he had with there's it's work. At times you're gonna have people that you like to work with that you don't like to work with, and you have times where people are gonna be rude to you. They're gonna say something to you that's derogatory or something like that. If it's something that's like extremely sexist, racist, or one of those ists. Then yeah, definitely you want people to be held accountable for, their tone, their actions, and, things that they say and do. And in instances where it's just like, you don't get along with someone, I mean, sometimes that's life, that's work. And I do believe that he did have a poor experience. I mean, multiple people did have poor experiences in those Justice League reshoots, especially with, Whedon, and, we've come to see a historical pattern with Whedon and, the things that he has been accused of and done in the past. I think where it started getting annoying for me was after, they did their investigation. Whedon had been removed, and, there was discussion. So it started off with, okay, it's Whedon, Jeff Johns, and John Berg, right? And then it moved on to, during the investigation, oh, now it started off with Whedon. Let's start there. It started off with Whedon, and then it moved on to John Berg and Jeff Johns. And then it moved on to Walter Hamada after the investigation, or during the investigation. He felt like Walter Hamada wasn't doing enough for him to feel like he was, I don't know, to the point of it. Like, I feel like Ray had his feelings hurt, and I hate to diminish it that much to sound like that, but at this point, it's where it feels like it was. It's like, oh no, he was accused Hamada of sabotaging the investigation, which I think might be a stretch based on, all of the things that I've read. It was more so like, okay, I understand what you said about Whedon, and yes, Whedon has to go because it was something really bad. But Jeff Johns sounds like it was more just like, okay, I didn't like working with this guy. This guy didn't make me feel good. So let's focus on that. I can't fire a guy because, he didn't make you feel good during the course of this. I don't know. I mean, again, this is all my speculation, but just how it came across to me, even from Ray's own tweets and articles and things that he's posted, reposted, stated. It just felt like more so I didn't like the way this guy was talking to me type of thing. And then, so moving on, like, okay, Jeff Johns is gone. John Berg is gone. Walter Murata is there. And I just felt like every now and then Ray would pop up with, reminder, Walter Murata needs to be fired because he didn't apologize to me. And I'm not going to work with DC until Walter Hamada is gone. Well, you're not going to be working with DC. Walter Hamada stayed. He was removed from the Flash script, and the movies kept coming. Every now and then, Ray would pop up with, Walter Hamada needs to apologize to the cast and crew of Justice League for, again, derailing the investigation or something like that. And so it's okay, yeah, he feels it. But his thing is always, he always puts this after each of those tweets is A is greater than E. Accountability is greater than entertainment is his thing. And so finally, let me take this back. A few months ago, this is when so he had a problem with Hamada. He had a problem with the Warner Brothers and all of their, people that were sort of like executives and leaders or whatnot. I'm not sure, specifically who, except for the names that we've named so far. And then what ended up happening is that, and this is where I've really, really started to kind of turn my, my nose up at, not turn my nose up, what's the right phrase? Sort of sway my opinion against Ray, was when David Zaslav came in, and he came in and started making these cuts and things, and then he scrapped the Batgirl movie, and you have these actors and these directors that put all this time and work and energy into making this movie, and they get scrapped. Nobody's ever going to see it. It's their artwork. Like, imagine you went and spent months on a piece of art, and whether anyone else thinks it's like great or amazing or whatnot, you work on it and it's there for you, and you just want people to be able to see it, and then someone comes in and tells you, no, we're not going to see this, we're going to tear this up, destroy it, and nobody's ever going to see this piece of art that you may enjoy or think is wonderful. And so that happened. So I felt sorry for the directors and Leslie Grace and Brendan Fraser, all these people that were part of this movie that did this months and months of work that was never going to be able to be seen. And on the day that this was announced that this movie is getting scrapped, Ray Fisher comes out and goes, oh, just a reminder. Like he sort of threw out this reminder, and it was very obviously taking on the fact that he it was very obviously taking on the fact that it was about that he was taking advantage of, sort of laughing at the fact that these people were losing this, because this was sort of what people were calling Walter Hamada's pet project. And, so he took the moment in time to state that this movie was or that this was a good time to remind people about what Hamada did wrong in Ray's eyes. And so that was where it really turned me sour to Ray. And I was like, oh, like this guy's, sort of full of himself, sort of looking for attention and whatnot. And so that's when I was just turned off by, his tweets and whatnot. So cool. A few months go by. Hamada leaves DC. He's done. Basically soft fired. He quit, but he didn't really quit. He was gonna go regardless. And now Ray, all the people that Ray had named and been complaining about for, a year, 2 years, however long, sort of the investigation to that point had taken, were gone. At least the people that he named. Again, I'm not saying everyone that sort of he felt did wrong, but just the people he named. And then, it comes to a moment like where out of nowhere, out of the blue, again, is out of the blue. This is back in December. Ray tweets out something like about James Gunn and talked about how he is fake and, is basically a liar. And this is what I was talking about earlier about someone else calling James Gunn a liar. But, Ray Fisher tweets out something like the way James Gunn, I actually find the actual tweet. And here it is. So it says, the way James Gunn uses fake grace on Twitter is really funny. Him going to bat for Joss Whedon, pseudo apologizing for it, and then deleting it immediately before taking his new DC job is not. Refusing to apologize for toxic behavior seems to be a job requirement for WB/DC. And then he puts the shoulder shrug emoji. And so Ray, in concert with that, he puts up 4 screenshots basically of his Twitter, where Ray was saying, James Gunn, do this one, basically asking James Gunn to sort of respond to where he showed support for. It was actually a tweet that Alan Tudyk had where Alan Tudyk had responded to a post about Joss Whedon, where Alan Tudyk said something about knowing Joss for 17 years and couldn't imagine, him being unprofessional and abusive on Justice League. And James Gunn liked the tweet. And then so James Gunn liked Alan Tudyk's tweet. So that's what Ray was saying, cool, now do this. Basically wanted James to comment on, Alan Tudyk's, the fact that he liked Alan Tudyk's tweet. So James really addressed it. And that's one thing I say about James Gunn. James Gunn does spend a lot of time on Twitter, and he does engage and interact with these folks. So he says something like, you got it. Shortly after Alan tweeted this, he apologized for commenting on a situation he knew nothing about, and that he read what Alan said, and he thought, damn, he's right. That it was something I knew nothing about, and I shouldn't have liked the tweet. So Ray Fisher's calling out James Gunn for liking a tweet that someone else put on there. And so then Ray Fisher responds with, thank you, James Gunn. Then Ray decided to check on January 15th. Ray decided to go ahead and check the tweet again, apparently in December. And he realizes that the tweet is gone. It's deleted by the author. And he calls James Gunn a fake, basically showing fake grace because he deleted the tweet. Saying that basically he's supporting Joss Whedon and this, that, and the other, and blah, 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 blah. And so what Ray seemed to didn't know or didn't take into account, or maybe didn't even care, he was just trying to rile up sort of a fan base, was that James Gunn's tweets automatically delete every few months. So he has a setting where all of his tweets auto delete, which if you're James Gunn, There's a reason behind that because, he got in trouble for some old tweets or whatnot, and I guess James Gunn's sort of like, burn me once, shame on me, burn me twice, shame on you, or something like that, or burn me twice, shame on me. Anyway, all of that to be able to say, like, James Gunn has the tweets automatically deleted, so it wasn't like he was deleting it because he didn't agree with or wasn't serious about what he said to, Ray in the first place. And so Ray never responded. So James Gunn actually responded to that and said that he has tweets automatically deleting, and that it had nothing to do with the tweets to Ray. Ray never responded to say, "Oh, my bad," or anything like that. He just left it up. The tweet is still there. I'm reading it right now. So it's not like he, Ray deleted it to be like, take it away. But it's still there. It's still to cause sort of controversy, so to speak. And so that was sort of like a second turning point. It was like, okay, now you're turning your attention. Now you're mad at James Gunn, for DC. And then more recently, this one was just this past week on 17th of March, the Ides of March. Ray Fisher tweets out something else. He goes, as the truth about Justice League reshoots, so this is after the Ben Affleck interview, continues to come out, it is important to remember the former and current DC Films executives that protected and supported Joss Whedon are not fit for leadership. Again, A is greater than E. Basically saying accountability is greater than entertainment. And now, so like it's like, okay, Ray, you know, Joss Whedon's gone, John Berg is gone, Walter Hamada is gone, Jeff Johns is gone. Gosh, who else? Like Toby Emmerich is gone. Like all these people are gone, and new people have come in. The company's changed hands twice since this whole thing. Like you've had go from AT&T, it had to go from WB to AT&T or Time Warner to AT&T to Discovery, and so ownership at the top has changed. DC, created a new DC Studios with new ownership, and James Gunn and Peter Safran, but you're still criticizing these people. Now it's even worse though, because now you're just throwing out random titles. Former and current DC Films executives that protected and supported Joss Whedon are not fit for leadership. So who are these people? If accountability is your goal, why are you not holding them accountable by actually saying their names? Why are you just throwing out shots, like blank shots up in the air? And it feels like he's just going to keep going after people until he gets something that I don't know what the something is he wants. Is he trying to get Zack Snyder back in doing his DC movie to finish his series? Is he trying to, I don't know. Like, it just feels like, I feel like he's doing more to his own legacy than anyone else is doing. Like, I feel like, okay, yeah, he's in the new Rebel Moon. Like, I don't see him. Like, I think you should probably just focus on your Rebel Moon, sir. Like, it's not. It does like, what is your ultimate goal here, Ray? All it makes you seem like is you're crying and you're complaining. You have an agenda. What's your agenda? Is your agenda? And I know if you were to hear this, you'd say your agenda is hold people accountable. Well, how are you holding them accountable, Ray? All those people that you mentioned that you had a problem with are fired and gone, but you're still going. You're going after James Gunn and Peter Safran now. What does Safran do and James Gunn do to you? If it's about like, James Gunn supported blah, 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 such and such, like it feels like you just picked a fight with James because he's now the leader at DC. Is this also, you can get back and become Cyborg again? Like, is that what you want? If that is, say that's what you want. I mean, at the end of the day, like, what I mean, if it is really what you want, you're going about it the whole wrong way. It's a lot, and this is all this drama, and obviously the fans, the people who are plugged in know about this drama, but not the general audience. So it's not going to make one bit of difference. And I don't know if you thought that. I don't know if Ray Fisher thought that he's affecting sort of the failure of the James Gunn DC or the DC movies that have released so far this year and last year, but I don't know. Because I have a feeling that the Flash movie, when it comes out, is going to be a huge movie. I have a feeling that it's going to be like in the $800 million range, and we'll get butts in seat. You have Michael Keaton's Batman coming back, and it's Flash's multiverse dealing with stuff, and I think it looks beautiful. It's the trailer was amazing. I think it's going to be a big movie. It has a lot of stuff going for it, and I think it's something that the general audience will go see, and I think it's something that will make money. So I think at this point, Ray Fisher is just more annoying than helping his case at all. But that's just my opinion. That's my thoughts on it. Final bit of news here. I'll go ahead and close it out. Is the Snyder Con that was announced. Zack Snyder tweeted out a teaser early last week, and it was in reference to a DC movie. So they didn't say what exactly it was, but it was a save the date for April 28th through the 30th. Which when I saw that, pretty much knew it was SnyderCon that was coming up. I really wish I could go. One, because I would love to see Zack Snyder's Justice League in theaters, as well as be able to see some of the other movies and meet some of the other peoples of fandom. Not the crazy toxic people. Actually, I wouldn't mind meeting the crazy toxic people to kind of put a face to the toxicity and see them in person to see what they got to say. And kind of call them out on their toxicity and, how they're not really fans. They're just jerks. I was about to use another word, but I'll try to keep this PC. Anyway, I think that was all. I think that was enough for today. I'll be back later this week with a new episode. So we got a lot of content built up that I'm going to be putting out. Some guests coming on, so we'll talk more about that. In the meantime, you can follow me on Twitter at PR1MEX. You can also follow me on TikTok. That's at the Xavion Factor. You can view my website, thexavionfactor.com, which will have some new articles and posts coming up. Again, as I talked about, I have more content. We're definitely going to expand and put more content and try to build this up. I think writing is good. The only problem I have with writing more so often nowadays is just the trying to make sure that the content is sort of evergreen on there, since it is in writing. I think podcasts are more for topical things, but we'll see. So I appreciate you all. If you have any thoughts on these, you disagree with me, you agree with me on any of these subjects, please send me an email. You can email me at at xavion@thexavionfactor.com. I appreciate you all listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.